Direct speech can look horribly busy. Speech marks, commas, capital letters, punctuation inside the speech marks, and then those trickier sentences where the speech gets split in two. In this 2-lesson series, we'll make it much clearer, starting with the SCAPS checklist and then moving on to the patterns that catch children out. Welcome back. In this lesson, we're going to look at direct speech and how a useful acronym called SCAPS can help children follow a particular order. We'll look at what each letter means, and then we will practice building a sentence step by step. SCAPS gives the correct order, but you should always start with the actual words that come out of the character's mouth. Now, children are quite used to drawing a picture with a speech bubble to show what the character is actually saying. So this is where you need to start. Take time to discuss the words within the speech bubble. That's really important. And once children are able and confident to explain that, then you can move on to SCAPS and explain what the letters really mean. SCAPS gives children a simple order to follow when they are punctuating direct speech. It reminds them that it is not random. Each mark has a job to do, and the order is very important. So SCAPS stands for S, speech marks, C, capital letter, A, actually said, so the words that are actually spoken by the person, P, punctuation, and S is speech marks again. Let's construct a simple sentence now using SCAPS. We start with S, the speech marks. This is because the speech is beginning. Next is C, the capital letter. The sentence has just started, so it must have a capital letter. Following this is the part that's actually said by the character. Now, if the child gets confused by this, refer back to your picture with the speech bubble to look at the exact words that were spoken. After this comes P, punctuation. And in this case, we need a question mark because this is a question being asked. And the punctuation always has to relate to the sentence that's being spoken. And finally, we have S for speech marks again. The acronym SCAPS starts and ends with the letter S for speech marks to show that everything within the speech marks is what has been said by the character. Let's just look at that again quickly. Speech marks, capital letter, actually said, punctuation, speech marks. So we open the speech, we use a capital letter, we build the sentence, we end the sentence with a punctuation mark, and then we close the speech with the speech marks. Now we just have to add who is speaking. So our sentence now reads, "Where is my hat?" asked the girl. Asked the girl shows us who is speaking, and it doesn't go inside the speech marks because they are not the words the girl actually says. She only says, "Where is my hat?" Using SCAPS really helps children punctuate direct speech correctly, but quite often mistakes still do happen. So let's have a quick look at some of those now. So here we have the sentence correctly written. And our first example of a mistake shows that there is a capital letter missing at the start. So you'd need to refer your child back to the C stage of SCAPS to remind them about the capital letter. The second example shows the question mark or the punctuation outside of the speech marks. And here you need to refer your child back to the P stage because the punctuation belongs to the sentence that's being said. So it has to go inside the speech marks. And finally, the last example shows the speech marks at the very end of the sentence. Now this would imply that the girl is actually saying, "Where is my hat?" asked the girl. But clearly that's not the case. So here you would go back to the A stage, what's actually said, to show your child that it's only the words that are spoken by the character that go inside the speech marks. When you're checking for understanding, you could ask your child, can you explain what each of the different stages of SCAPS means and point to it in the sentence? Can your child also explain why asked the girl is not inside the speech marks? And don't forget, if your child's needing a bit of extra support, you could always colour code the sentences. Have the part of the speech in one colour and the part outside the speech in a different colour. So the key message is this. SCAPS is a great acronym to follow when children are trying to write direct speech because it shows them the order in which they have to do things. And the most important part of it is the A, the actually said. And again, refer back to the child with the speech bubble to look again at what exactly has been said if your child's getting confused. Thanks for watching. I hope this video helped. And if it did, please like it and subscribe to This Child Can for more calm, practical tips to help support children and their learning. And do tell me, what's the punctuation rule that makes you have to stop and think most often? Welcome back. In our last lesson, we looked at SCAPS, speech marks, capital letter, actually said, punctuation, and speech marks again. That's still our starting point today, but now what we're going to do is we're going to look at what happens when speech moves around, gets split up, or continues on for a bit longer. It's important to keep coming back to 3 questions. What was actually said? Who said it? And is the same sentence or the same speaker still continuing? And it's important that the children understand what the punctuation is actually doing, rather than just memorizing lots of separate rules. So what happens when the speech goes at the end of the sentence? In this example, it says, Mum whispered, the hamster is in the cereal cupboard. We can see here that Mum whispered comes at the start of the sentence this time. Then we have a comma. That shows that the speech is about to begin. It's very common for children to miss out this comma before the speech. So the key question to ask is, what punctuation clue tells the reader that the speech is coming next? So what happens when the speech is split in 2? Here we have, I absolutely refuse, said Noah, to wear a pineapple costume. Now it looks a little bit messy because the speech has been split into 2 parts by the words said Noah. But notice that said Noah interrupts the flow of the spoken sentence, but it doesn't end the sentence. And that's really important to note. So if we take out the words said Noah just for a moment, then what we're left with is I absolutely refuse to wear a pineapple costume. That's one continuing sentence. So the to does not need a capital letter. So the speech is interrupted and the commas show where the interruption happens. The exclamation mark shows the end of the spoken sentence. But what happens when we split the speech, but the second part begins a new sentence? Here we have, I knew it, said Ava. The cat has stolen my sandwich again. So here, the second part of the speech is a brand new sentence. If we take out said Ava, then what we are left with is, I knew it. The cat has stolen my sandwich again. That's 2 complete separate sentences, and it shows the needs a new capital letter. So what happens if one person says several sentences, like in this example here? Where is my dragon? I left him by the toaster. He was wearing a blue hat, said the knight. Now notice that the speech marks start at the beginning of the speech and they don't close until after the final word of speech. And if we look here at this common mistake, children often put speech marks at the beginning and end of each sentence, not at the beginning and end of the speech, which is where they should go. So the key question to ask here is it just one person speaking? And if so, the speech marks go at the start of the speech and you don't close the speech marks until the person has finished speaking, no matter how long they speak for. Now, how do we show a conversation between 2 people? Here we have, where is my dragon? Asked the knight. Have you checked the biscuit tin? Replied the queen. So we have 2 people speaking. First the knight speaks, then the queen replies. And because we have a different person speaking, we start a new line. So the key message here is new speaker, new line. And the reason why this matters is because it helps the reader to follow the conversation. It stops the dialogue becoming all confusing. It keeps it nice and clear. If you're teaching lower confidence learners, start with the basics. Start with SCAPS. Don't teach all the different speech patterns at the same time. Stick with an easy one. Mum whispered, the hamster is in the cereal cupboard. Once that is secure, then move on to the split speech idea. If you need more support with the split speech idea, cover up the words said Noah or said Ava and just speak the parts that are actually spoken. And the final tip is to use different colours to show who is speaking. And if one person is speaking many sentences, show all of that speech in the one colour. So the key message here is that the basic SCAPS pattern helps children a lot. But when direct speech becomes trickier, children need to notice the structure of the sentence to get it right. So the 4 key questions to ask are, what is actually being said? Who is saying it? Is the same sentence continuing? And is the same speaker still speaking? Once children understand those answers and can give you the answers confidently, then that shows that they are understanding the punctuation and it makes more sense to them. And that's it. Thanks for watching. If this video helped, please like it and share it with someone who might find it useful. Don't forget to subscribe to This Child Can for more calm, practical tips to help support children's learning. And tell me, what's the punctuation rule that you wish someone had explained to you more clearly as a child?